So we've been talking a little bit about IPv6, and it's nice to be able to look at the network level details and actually see what's going on. But when it comes right down to it, what does it actually mean to us as users, and how are we actually going to interface with the network? Well, in reality, there aren't really a lot of differences from a user perspective. We'll have to get configured with a new IP address, but as mentioned previously, that's actually a reasonably easy process using IPv6. The nice thing is, because of the way that the protocols are layered, we can actually just insert IPv6 into the middle here and not actually really worry about much of anything else. This is actually a packet capture where I have done some web communications between my browser and a web server that's been configured to use IPv6. So I've got my TCP connection here, and you can see I'm doing just the standard three-way handshake that comes along with TCP. So here's my SYN, my SYN-ACK, and my ACK. And those look very similar to the way you would expect them to look with just IPv4 the way you're used to seeing it. The difference here is I've now got IPv6 sitting in the middle, and of course I'm using a different address. So we can just flip through here. You'll see that I've done a GET request using HTTP, and we can see that there is some data that comes back, and we get the web request that comes up. That's pretty straightforward here. Standard kind of communication here. We've got the source and destination, and you can see the communication going back and forth here. And again, we've got ports just as we always have in TCP. So basically, the short answer here is TCP hasn't actually changed to work with IPv6, which doesn't mean that there aren't some configuration things that have to happen here. So for example, on the server side, I had to do a little bit of configuration to make sure that the web server was listening on the correct IP address to support IPv6. And because I don't actually have DNS set up to work with these addresses at this point, I had to actually type in the IP address. And when I type in the IP address, I actually have to use brackets around the IP address when I'm going to that address in my web browser. So beyond that, though, just from a user perspective, let's say I did have DNS configured and the DNS was working with my IPv6 addresses, it would work exactly the same as I would expect it to work. It's just that we're now using IPv6 instead of IPv4 at the network layer of our communication.